Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Steven here from Northwest Small Batch Brewing, and today's an interesting one. I almost wasn't going to film this one, but I had a brew day yesterday that was kind of a pain in the butt, and it decided me that this might be helpful to people. The reason I wasn't going to film it is because I don't want people to get the wrong idea. So the thought here is, I bought a new brewing system a couple years ago. And, you know, when you first buy the brewing system, I put out some, suggestions and tips I learned right off the bat to help with it. But I don't really want to do a review of it, but I do want to kind of cover some of my, learning pains or growth pains with it so that if someone else is looking at buying a brewing system, it's something that you can look into. However, I don't want you to think that I'm bashing this brewing system, because I'm not. If you stay till the end, you'll see that I'm not. So I'm not going to say what brewing system it is, although you could obviously see from my brewing, full brew videos what I'm using. But at any rate, so here's the deal. I've been using it for a couple years. And the main reason I bought it is because the system I had before had bad issues with maintaining a mash temperature. Okay. And if I'm being honest, that's one of the main problems with the current system I have. It has a separate PID, right, that controls the temperature, and it has never worked well for me. Cheers, by the way. Yeah, it's never worked well for me. And I've sent it back and forth to the company that I bought my brewing system from several times. I think they repaired it once, and then the second time they just sent me either a replacement or a refurbished one. I'm not sure, but either way, it fluctuates 10 degrees above and below what you set the value to. So let's say I want to mash at 150 Fahrenheit, and I set it to that. It will go to 160 before it turns off, and then it takes forever for it to come back down, and then it actually drops down to like 140 before it starts kicking back on. You know what I mean? So it's like this roller coaster, and you get, obviously, it screws with your, your body and your alcohol content, your gravity numbers, because you're not mashing at the temperature you want. So anyway, I've been dealing with this for a while, and I'm at the point now where I just babysit it, basically. I let it go. Let's say I set it for 150. I let it go down to 148. I turn the heat back on manually, wait till it just starts to heat up and I can see the numbers start going up, and I turn it off, because the residual heat from the element will keep it going several more degrees and get it up to the temperature I want. It'll hold it there for a while. It doesn't take a lot of babysitting, but yeah, it's a little irritating. So that's the first irritation. And here's why it's not the fault of the company I bought this from. Well, it kind of is and kind of isn't. It is because they are the one providing the equipment, but it isn't because it's clear as day, they're getting this equipment from, I'm just going to say it, China. All right. It's from a Chinese company, because I actually bought the exact same controller on Amazon. It was a lot less with free shipping, but it had a different name on it, but it was, so clearly they're just buying these in bulk from a Chinese company and slapping their sticker on it. And that's fine. I don't expect, the brewing company to manufacture every single part themselves. The problem is with these bulk produced Chinese, items, they're cheaply made, and they just don't last long or work that well. So that's the first issue. Second, I'm going to get to what I would suggest. Second issue is, let's go to the element. The element has been crap. I'm sorry. And I'm not the only one who has said that. I know other people who have had major issues with the element. Again, the element was not made by this brewing company, right? They're clearly buying these elements in bulk from a Chinese company, because you can see them online. You can even, buy them. In fact, I just ordered a replacement. Here's a picture of, just happened to me yesterday. Now, this is a repeat issue. It's not just that it just happened. I've had to do this 4 or 5 times at least over the last couple of years. So here's the picture. And it basically shorts out. It gets corroded. The wires kind of get brittle and fall apart. It shorts because the wires fail. And then you have to take the whole thing apart. You have to clean it up. You have to sort of strip more wire off of it. Put new tips on those wires, screw it all back together. What a pain. And you don't know that you're having an issue until you have an issue. I actually had a leak, and I had to actually drain all the water out of the mash tun, and then fix the element, put it back in, put the water back in. At least I didn't have a major, incident. So it was fixable, but still. So I just ordered a new element, and you have to, it's kind of annoying if you order it separately, like from Amazon. You have to buy the power cable separately from the actual element, and then you need, anyway, there's a bunch of parts that like kind of connect it to the brewing system that I can reuse, but I'm just saying it's sort of a pain. All right. I guess the only other thing I could really say about it is, I would say that you'll get a couple years, maybe 3 years out of the mash basket, which is pretty unique to this brewing system. Well, it was. It's not anymore. You can buy them, like I say, on Amazon now. But it does start to show wear and tear after a few years. It's still usable, but I anticipate having to replace it in the next year. So here's the deal. I'm saying all these things, problems. The question is, would I still buy this system today? Like with all that we currently have on the market, would I still buy the system today? The only system I can honestly say that I'm sort of interested in, other than this system that I have, is the Brewzilla. And that's because there are some personal things that they have on it that I think would work well for my brewing. That doesn't mean it would work for everybody. It doesn't make it a better system. I just like some of the things that it has going for it. But I'm not going to go out and buy a Brewzilla just to try it. It's too expensive, you know. So would I buy this system I have now again? Yes, I definitely would. It's modular, so I can replace these parts that I'm having problems with, which I can't do on a lot of the like all-in-one coffee urn style systems, right? Except for maybe the anvil, which I think is open on the bottom. I could be wrong, but I know some people alter it, so I think it is. But most of the systems, you can't access the pump and everything else. So when it fails, and you're buying a whole new system or sending it into them, which is expensive. At least with the system I have, I can just replace the parts. The only thing that will be better is to go backwards in time and use a propane system, right? Because then you have even less that could go wrong with it. But if you want to have electric and something that'll hold the temperature, you're going to have to deal with these kinds of issues. So I guess in a nutshell, that's what I'm saying is if you buy a modular system like this, I would say you're going to get a couple years out of it. At that point, you know, maybe 1 year in, start budgeting because you know you're going to have to replace the elements. You're going to have to replace the PID probably, maybe the mash basket a little bit later on. So start budgeting for that early on so that you can get those things after a couple years. Don't wait until they fail because then you don't have, right, that item to do your brew day and it's failed and now your brew day is gone, right? Because you can't, what are you going to do, right? Make sure you have that backup in place ahead of time. But like I say, I like the company. They have the best customer service in the world, and all the parts that are made here, and I assume they're made here, but all the parts that are mechanical, they work great. There's no issues with the kettle. I don't use the pump anymore, but that's just for personal use, and the hoses. But they're great. There's nothing wrong with them. They work fine. It's just the cheap Chinese-made parts that just don't work well. But, you know, if you want something better, you're going to pay maybe a lot more money. So trying to keep the costs, you know, reasonable. Anyway, the answer is yes, I would still buy this system again. I hope that helps if you're looking into buying one of these types of systems and you're looking for a little bit more information on someone who's used it for a few years. And until then, I'll be back in another week for another video. Happy brewing.